Thank you so much for joining us today at the NFT House. We have an incredible lineup of panelists for you, some of the greatest community builders, I would dare to say, in the NFT space. I'm going to let them introduce themselves because I will not do them justice. If we start at this end with Pontus.
So my name is Pontus. I've been doing NFTs, I think, probably for the better part of this past year, but been in crypto for the better part of this decade, I would say. I currently do BD and partnerships at Olaplex, which is an NFT infrastructure company on Solana. So what we do is basically make it super simple in a no-code, low-code way for artists and projects to spin up their own marketplaces or storefronts.
Awesome. Charles?
Oh, hi, everyone. My name is Charles Nguyen. I'm the co-founder of Project Galaxy. I started my crypto career since 2017. And yeah, Project Galaxy is building an on-chain credential data network, helping organizations to leverage on-chain credentials and NFTs to build their loyalty programs, to build better communities and product.
Awesome. And Sean?
Hi, everyone. My name is Sean Morrison. I am an entrepreneur, a curator, a creator, but in Web3, I am head of community at the Palm NFT Studio. And Palm is a layer 2 sidechain that is dedicated to creativity and culture, and we exist at the intersection of art and entertainment.
Amazing. So as I said, an amazing lineup and really interesting, Sean, as well, that you're kind of coming from the artist and curator perspective. And I think in NFTs, we all find ourselves dabbling in different things, right? Because, you know, you might be working for one platform in one capacity, you might be a collector as well, you might be a creator. So Pontus, tell us a little bit about the kind of community that you're building, specifically at Holoplex, and how do you view community? Because I feel like in Web3, the game has changed, right? We're not in that kind of Web2 space. We're not doing traditional art world. It's new. So like, how do you view it? Like, how do you approach it?
Yeah, so I've helped build a couple of communities in like the NFT space, and I think particularly what strikes me is that it's taken this idea of communities being like very insular and concentrated in one particular part of the world, whether that's your city or your particular like town, and just kind of exploded it out. And so suddenly like the communities that we find ourselves in are very truly like in every sense of the word international. And it's international in the perspective of like, you could very well be in a group where your next door neighbor is part of your community, but you don't know that. And so at Olaplex, one of the things that we kind of see and also help the artists that use our platform as well from that perspective is understand how to spread the artwork and the creations that they're kind of generating on a day-to-day or week-to-week basis, but also cultivating really strong connections with their collectors and other artists. Because ultimately, like what it comes down to is that this isn't going to be built as you're not going to take on the world by yourself, and you kind of have to find other people to support you along that journey.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that's right. And then kind of like expanding on that a little bit, Sean, I'm a member of the Palm community, right? When the Damien Hirst drop happened, I got one, yeah. So like there was like, you know, I've kind of like been a part of that community, have been kind of watching that grow as well. From the kind of artist and curator perspective, like, does that change how you're approaching things at Palm? Do you think that gives you like additional insight and kind of, especially in that space, like how are you?
So I will say that like at Palm, because Palm is completely new, I think there are challenges associated with that. When I came on board, there were no members of the community team. I was like the first member of the community team, and most people had only known about Palm because of the Hearst drop. We were not well positioned yet to provide what people needed at the time. And so after that, I sat down with our CEO and we identified sort of 3 core personas that we wanted to focus our community on. One being developers, the other being collectors, and the other being creators. That's hard. It's hard to have all of those people in one community and kind of like give them all of the things that they need. And so I think that's the big struggle that we're dealing with. That's the big struggle that I'm dealing with as head of community, because it's hard to serve all those different people because there's overlap sometimes. And quite frankly, I had a developer relations person that then decided he wanted to go work for a DAO. And so, because we're a new network, part of what we need are people building on that network. So developers are super important. And so now I'm trying to find a new developer relations person to fill that role. But I think that overlap is something that is consistent, I think, in Web3. I think there's a lot of overlap. What I'm seeing a lot of is artists also becoming collectors. And so I think it makes it harder to serve all of those different personas in one core community.
Yeah, absolutely. I think traditionally we had you would do your kind of persona layouts for marketing and you would kind of think about that and the lines are blurred. And in fact, as community builders, we're forced to be a lot more creative.
I think that's what's so exciting too about Web3, right? I think for a time in Web 2, even when you think about creating a product, there were very, very clear lines between, I'm going to design it and then you're going to build it, but we're never going to talk about it, ever, ever, ever. And I'm a developer, so I don't touch design, and I'm a designer, so I don't touch code. And that has all sort of gone away, and those lines, like you said, have blurred. And I think that's what's so exciting about Web 3 is it just kind of exploded everything.
Yeah, and it's beautiful, and we're seeing that in the NFT space, right? I mean, even some of the sessions that we've had today where Bailey was talking about poetry, and we had developers in there and everything. We find ourselves in this cultural revolution, I like to think. Now, Charles, with Project Galaxy, it's slightly different almost because everything that you do is about community. And I mean, I don't mean to be glib when I say that because obviously community is the kind of founding pillar of everything in NFTs. But Project Galaxy literally is about kind of it's social inherently. What challenges do you have there? And you can't say none because there are definitely challenges. But and what have been some of the interesting challenges? What are things that have come up that you maybe didn't necessarily expect?
Right. So for Project Galaxy, we're a tooling company. We're infrastructure. We provide, especially for the first 8 months when we started after we started Project Galaxy, we've been more focused on developer relations. As an infrastructure company, we want to work with more organizations and DAOs, brands, and it's more like a P2P, protocol-to-protocol infrastructure. So it was a challenge at the beginning when we tried to build our own community because you don't expect business clients to be, interacted, to interact with your community like users or investors. But later we find out, we're not just, we can leverage some of the features we have. For example, they drive their users to use, they use Project Galaxy to offer something for their community because we provide a tool for them to build their community, right? Leverage on-chain credentials and NFTs to build their loyalty program. So users are interacting with Galaxy platform. So, and then last year, December, we had an event called end of year 2021 end of year rave. We united 12 different protocols. For example, Perpetual Protocol, Yearn Finance, Alpha Finance, and those are DeFi protocol. Each one come up with one task, and finishing all tasks. If you finish each task, will give you one credential-based NFT from that protocol. If you complete 10 out of 12, you will be able to forge them into a Galaxy NFT. The NFT is called Galaxy Girl NFT. And a lot of people was crazy about it. And it also drove a lot of users to their protocol. And turns out, starting from there, we started to see, that's the way we can build our community because we are, interacting with the community of those protocols, but also eventually convert them into our NFT holder. That's how we did it, yes.
That's interesting. I think gamification, especially for a developer audience, can be super fun and engaging. What about, and kind of open question, what other approaches have you taken that you've seen to be really, really successful? You know, are there particular campaigns? Is it about consistency? Like, what do you think are the kind of, the big wins that you've seen with some of the approaches that you've taken?
We're creating a lot of content, and I have been pushing my team, like even though you're on Discord, certain things will bubble up. If they bubble up, let's create a blog post. Let's, do a video to show people how to do it. We do Twitter Spaces, and we're taking the audio from Twitter Spaces and editing that and creating a podcast. So we are just churning out a lot of content to try to kind of like meet people where they are as well, because there's the outreach portion of what we do as well. Because like I said, we're new, and so I think we're doing a lot more outreach than. Also, the space is just so noisy. You're competing with everyone. And when I first started, I heard that Discord beep in my sleep at one point. It's insane. So yeah, there's a lot of competition. And so I think where we're sort of focusing is creating a lot of content to try to reach people. It seems to be working so far.
Yeah, that's awesome. And it's that kind of like signal noise. And then, it used to be broadcast, and now it's not that. It's a two-way, if not a three-way conversation. So like really adapting to that. So that's awesome. Pontus?
Yeah, I was going to say one of the ways that we kind of approach it is an emphasis on collaboration. I think as someone who has, like before committing to Discord Nitro, like having to join, leave Discord servers because you hit the 100 cap is like something that's very true. And like the idea of like waking up in the middle of the night to like phantom pings is like probably something a lot of people in here can relate to. But you're fighting for attention. And I think it's important for brands and businesses and projects and teams that are building in Web3 to remember too that like it's not always about how do we pull them to our protocol or our platform. It's about how do we get them to connect with the person that's sitting right next to them in like the virtual metaverse or whatever. And so a lot of kind of what we do to encourage that is we find artists that are very proficient in maybe say one medium, or very outspoken and love to drive Twitter Spaces. And we encourage them either monetarily or through exposure through our platform or in other ways to go out and find like-minded individuals or individuals that they feel that they should be putting up and promoting, and encourage them to find ways to collaborate, whether it's generating some new piece of one-of-one artwork or running their own kind of competitions or whatever. And for me, that's been particularly, I guess, effective, not from the perspective of like how do we drive more people to using Olaplex, which just happens by proxy, but more so just making sure that these artists feel like they're represented and feel like they're supported. And I think from the like previous panel, I was been sitting here for the past hour, someone mentioned this idea of mental health. And I think it's something that's grossly it's not talked about nearly enough. And it's something that we value quite a lot. And I think that it has to come from finding support, building your own support network within the communities that you're involved in. Because it's not always going to, we don't have the answer to everything. We have an answer to a lot of things. But some people maybe just do it better.
Yeah, I think I love that. I think it is a rising tides type of thing. We all work on different types of projects. We work with different communities, but ultimately creating value that can be universal is actually what we should all be driving towards. And I think the projects that do that are successful. And we see that time and time again. No, that's fantastic. Do you have a particular kind of like campaign or a particular thing that you've done that you, similar to Galaxy Girl, where you've just been like, oh, we did well there. That was brilliant. The community loved it.
Yeah, so I've been in the like traditional consulting space for the past like probably 10 years at this point, and seen a lot of different pitches. And pitch competitions are like everyone kind of knows about them. And I think like in the traditional sense, it's always kind of been like you're pitching to a VC or you're pitching to someone who's going to potentially give you access to something else. And one thing that I'm particularly proud of our community, and I like stress that because it's not our team, is that every week we drive open pitches through the Olaplex Twitter. And so we run Twitter spaces where different communities, whether it's an NFT project, one-of-one creators, or artist collectives, sit on a panel of 3. And anyone that has an Olaplex storefront can go up and basically promote either what they're doing, whether it's they have a live auction or not, and basically tell the community and these 3 community panelists what it is that they're up to. And at the end of the whole thing, those panelists ultimately end up voting on one particular person, and then we as a company feature them on our storefront for a week until the next open pitch. And that's probably like my favorite way because it's all about community. Community.
That's awesome. And even for discoverability, even for you personally, right? I bet it's a pleasure to like, you're like, oh, that's brilliant, like dig in a bit more. Very cool. And Shan, what about you? Is there any kind of like campaign or something that you've done at PAM that you've just been really proud of?
Yeah, so we have something called the Creator Engagement Program, and what we do is there's just a form that the creators in our community can fill out, and what we do is we find opportunities to amplify them across the Palm ecosystem. So that starts with a blog post and featuring them on Twitter Spaces, featuring their work across all our socials, but also I coordinated with Emily and we're showing some of those artists here. And it's like, it's just a matter of trying to give them, amplify their work and give them opportunities to be seen. I think at the end of the day, I always say the only way to support an artist is to buy their work. And so I do have something in mind where we will, as a part of that program, purchase a piece of that artist's work. We haven't gotten it in place yet, but that's something that we're doing for now that I think just really just adds value and really helps them out from all the feedback that I've gotten.
That's amazing. That's really exciting. And as Shan said, after the session, if you get a chance, pop upstairs. There's an installation that PAM have kindly put together for us. Final, I could sit and chat to you all day, to be honest. I'm learning so much. This is brilliant. Final question. You're all part of other communities as well, I assume. And one of the things I always love to do is ask you what other communities either you're part of and you enjoy being part of, or do you think are just doing a really, really great job of kind of building and supporting the folks they're in?
Well, when I joined this space, I'm relatively new to this space. I came in during what I called the clubhouse time, when everyone was locked in their house and nobody could go anywhere and everyone's just listening to Clubhouse. Started to see all these conversations around NFT. So it's been about a year. But as someone with an entrepreneurial sort of mindset, I personally was not seeing as much diversity as I would have liked. So I started a newsletter called The Black Chain, and the goal around that is to amplify the work of women and LGBTQ and BIPOC folks in the space. And one of the funny things is, community's been great. I've featured so many people across the ecosystem, but actually never met them in real life. And so I walked in here, and 3 of the first people that I saw were people that I featured in the newsletter, but I'd never met. And so for me, that was just sort of like a full circle moment of just like, yes, this community can exist, not just online, but also IRL. So
that's amazing. And can folks subscribe? Are you still?
Yeah.
Okay.
We're on Twitter at the Black Chain. It's black without the AC.
Okay.
So BLK.
We'll make sure we tweet it out after the
Awesome.
panel as
Thank
well.
you.
And Charles, what other communities do you think are doing an awesome job?
Well, I would say if we talk about NFT communities, I'm personally the holder of Cool Cats. They're doing a good job, but in general, in my opinion, I feel like all NFT communities are about the same. In general, the call to action, how they build their community usually is, maybe identify their long-term objective and then break it down to short-term goals. Mm-hmm. And then they always have call to actions in their community, which is great. And I see 95% of the top NFT projects doing this all day. I feel like, speaking of in general, I feel like Solana community is doing very well. Especially the devs we see in different events, they're very young and they're very energetic. We see a lot of new devs. They started to on Solana instead of ETH. It's a very interesting trend. But yeah, that's what I feel.
Yeah, as a Solana maxi, thank you. We want, we love our devs, and we love all the projects on there. Yeah, I mean, I think for the sake of brevity, instead of going into all the various monkeys and apes that projects represent, and that I'm probably a part of as well, the people that are building, as like cliche as that sounds, like anyone that's putting a foot forward and saying, hey, you know what, maybe we should make a DAO. Or, hey, maybe we should start an NFT project. Or maybe we should like do something about this one particular issue. And I heard that there was this one protocol that does credentials that maybe we can use to get into like our small coffee shop, right? Those are like the people that are putting their themselves forward and out there. Like, and even if they fail in dramatic fashion and rug us all, like that's fine, because at the end of the day, they probably have encouraged someone else to either save that project or go out and make their own.
Totally. Fortune favors the bold, right? Exactly. Well, listen, like I said, I wish we had another 6 hours to have a chat. If you do want to chat to our speakers, you'll stick around for a little bit and folks can ask you questions. Thank you so much, Pontus, Charles, and Shan, for joining us today. And yeah, big round of applause, please.